All right. Welcome to episode 12.
Damn.
Ink Deals.
Yes, sir.
Brandon, that's almost the equivalency of one. Well, it is the equivalency of one episode per month.
I thought you were going to say
For a year.
1 dozen.
1 dozen episodes in 1 month. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means there's literally people out there that have been, because I noticed our subscribers, we went up, we're almost at 10. So there's almost 10 people that are listening to us
Wow.
and dealing with our nonsense. Yeah. It's like, what could they actually physically want to listen to that we have to say, you know? But
I don't know. But
I
this
guess
one,
it's something.
Maybe some value, maybe some kind of
Little
interesting changes going forward.
Piece
So,
of tidbits, something for someone to listen to.
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So today's a very, very important episode. We're going to try to,
Extremely.
it could be groundbreaking. It could be industry shaking, and it could literally take 50% of the agents, maybe even 60%, and wipe them out of the industry entirely.
It could just end up being nothing. But
Or it
more
could end
than
up being
likely,
nothing.
there's definitely going to be some changes.
But more than likely some shakeup. So I know from a real estate perspective, just 3 days ago, NAR, the National Association of Realtors, just finalized the details on a class action lawsuit where they're going to be basically demanded to pay $418 million over the course of 4 years.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years. Now, this is a large amount of money, obviously. And the reason why this is a large amount of money and why it will affect you as a real estate agent is because their revenue is only just over $100 million a year. So essentially, you're going to have to pay 4 times that over the course of 4 years. Yeah, it's not 1 year, it's not 3 years, it's not 2 years, but it's 4 years. So
Where are they going to get that money from?
that's the problem. You know, there's two.
That is their
Where's it going to come from?
Where is it coming
You know, so
your fees?
yeah, my fees, my dues, you know, they're going to fire a bunch of people. There's a million different things that can go on.
Yeah.
But, you know, in essence, in a nutshell, what the actual lawsuit is about is essentially commissions. Because, you know, in real estate, as long as I've been in it and as long as you've worked with me and other real estate agents, the seller is generally the one who pays the commission on the buyer's side, right? As far as escrow fees,
The home price, essentially.
it is part of the process. It is part of the closing process, if you will. I know escrow fees and things like that can be, you know, negotiated between buyer and seller and things of that nature, but generally the commission is always paid on the seller side.
Yeah, and it's usually set by the seller and the listing agent.
By the listing agent, yeah.
You know, and
it's
and
negotiable.
The big thing about the lawsuit and where that's coming from is because the buyer's commission is listed on the MLS.
Correct.
So you can see it plain as day. Oh, this house I'm getting paid 2% on. This house is paying me 3%.
Yeah.
And so in a way that was steering realtors to show houses that had bigger commissions. And that's really the, you know, where the lawsuit came into play.
It's, well, also in essence, I mean, the seller doesn't want to feel like they should have to pay the other side of the deal's commissions. They should basically say, if you're going to be a buyer's agent or you're going to be the agent representing a buyer,
Yeah.
you should negotiate some sort of fee or you should negotiate some sort of contract where that buyer has to pay that agent, just like the seller has to pay the seller's agent.
Which is going to be just that much more onus on buyers, money out of their pocket, possibly.
Correct.
And, you know, it's not stressful enough for buyers in this market.
I mean, you're having to navigate through roads that obviously you've never been down. You're having to answer questions and fill out disclosures and do, you know, home inspections and do negotiations and all those things that you've never done. It's just like, you know, the first time you buy a car, you show up, you have to get pre-approved, you have to figure out how much you have to put down, you have to realize what your payment is going to be, all that good stuff. So, you know, what this lawsuit states is basically come mid-July of 2024, you will no longer see in the MLS a BAC or a buyer's agent or a buyer's commission to the agent. And essentially then what's going to happen is, you know, as a buyer's agent, let's say I'm representing a buyer, I'm basically going to call the listing agent before I show the property, do my due diligence and say, hey, is there any commission on this? Because what the lawsuit's going to state is that if there is a commission being paid to the buyer's agent, it has to be negotiated off market and it has to be a separate contract between the seller and the potential listing agent and then offered to the buyer's agent. So you're kind of in the dark with all this.
Yeah. Well, it's like you have to discover it on your own, one way or the other. And you have to almost kind of have a prearranged agreement with your buyer.
Yeah.
Because some properties, like you said, it's not outlawing or making it illegal to have a buyer's commission in part of that deal. It just can't be put on the MLS.
Correct. You can have it, but it can be behind closed doors. And as agents, I work with buyers. I've worked with, listing agents that don't give good commissions. I myself have sometimes offered a lower commission because I've been offered a lower commission by the seller. And it kind of all comes full circle. And in my opinion, what we're going to see here is you're having, all these agents that got into, the market or got into real estate, and they've made, a decent amount of money just simply opening doors for a buyer and just walking around.
Right.
And I don't think that that's going to be, I don't want to say allowed, but I don't think that's going to happen anymore. If you're representing a buyer, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to negotiate your fees up front. You're going to have to prove yourself as a formidable opponent in this market. And you're going to have to basically show that client, like, this is what I can do for you. This is what I can offer. This is how I can help you negotiate, these terms, these home inspections, these disclosures, all the things that are involved with the contractual process that buyer may not know of.
100%. Because
it's going to be wild.
Buyer agents have their worth.
Mm-hmm.
They can save you headaches in the types of homes you're purchasing, the relationships they have with inspectors and lenders, and just the advice could be priceless depending on, what you're getting into. So it's not that the position is going to be eliminated. If anything, it's going to be put under a microscope. And I think the amount of realtors and real estate agents will go down because it's not going to be a cakewalk anymore. You can't just be like, hey, here's this house that's offering me 3%. Let's go look at this one. Oh yeah, it's perfect. You need to show your worth throughout the process to your buyer.
So you're saying there's not going to be any overnight millionaire, real estate agents anymore that just show 2 or 3 houses and make,
I'm not saying that. I
6 years worth of income for the national, the normal national American that maybe makes 120,000 a year.
Yeah.
It's not just going to come out of thin air.
No, I think that might stop, but you never know.
So I got to ask, and this is more obviously a lender specific question. What if during the loan process and the closing process, the buyer somehow tries to, see if they can finance a commission into it? Like, for example, this is how I would play it out, right? And I'll make this short because I want to hear your response. But I'm representing a buyer. These commissions are no longer represented in the MLS. The house he wants to see or she wants to see, the seller is not offering a commission. So I basically say, hey, Mr. Yamamoto, this is his name. This is a $2 million home. For 3%, we'll negotiate the contract for you. We'll negotiate your repairs. We'll help you with disclosures. We'll show you 2 or 3 properties, 5 properties, whatever it takes, and ensure that I push this to the finish line. But you're going to have to pay me $60,000, 3%. So let's say he says, okay, I want to agree to your contract, Max, but I barely have enough money for my closing costs, which are roughly 1% of the purchase price. That's without liquidating my account essentially and having nothing, and I have to eat top ramen. How am I going to get you that 60 grand? So from a lender perspective, what are his options? I know what my options are. Tell him shit or get off the pot. But does he have any other options?
It's really going to impact people that are buying, lower priced homes. They don't have a large down payment, like you said.
Yeah.
Those are the people that are going to feel it the most if they're in an agreement where they have to pay their buyer's agent directly.
Yeah.
And then the flip side of that coin is, I don't want a buyer's agent. I'm just going to buy this, $300,000-$400,000 house direct.
Yeah.
What happens when that person gets screwed because they're not a real estate professional? They don't know what to look for. They don't know what kind of, inspection report, what to look at. They don't understand anything. They just know they want the house. They end up overpaying for it. They inherit this house with a ton of problems. Like, woo! It's a slippery slope, you got to have a buyer's agent unless you're really experienced in real estate and know what you're doing.
I mean, if you're buying multiple houses, though, you're probably not shopping in a $300,000 or $400,000 price point.
Exactly.
So
it really hurts those first-time home buyers, the lower income areas, lower home prices. I mean, we say that because we're in Orange County, but think of other places that aren't.
So what about
for a median home?
What about like VA loans, where it's 0% down?
Yeah.
What about FHA loans where it's like 3.5% down? How are these guys going to get a decent agent? Because the biggest issue that I can see amongst everything you just spoke of, which is obviously great info, is your earnest money deposit and how you can lose that if you don't, basically you could lose that, or you could lose the deal, for example, if you don't wire that within the first 72 hours. So that's because half these people's EMD is all they have. So if they lose that, they're never going to buy another house. They can't save that.
Yeah.
So how do we get through these FHA and these VA? I mean, give me an idea. Tell me something.
So one of the other huge things about this, and not a whole lot of people have talked about it yet, but VA in their guidelines says that a buyer with a VA loan cannot pay a buyer's agent commission. So
Everyone hear that? You repeat that one more time.
literally a veteran. So all veterans that are using VA loans in the VA guidelines cannot pay the buyer's agent commission. The VA says, oh, there's enough information out there. You can make your own decisions by gathering stuff on the internet, essentially.
Good luck.
Which is BS, but it's the VA says they can't pay the commission.
Yeah.
So you have people that are bringing possibly and usually zero money to the table using a VA loan.
Yeah.
And they cannot pay the buyer's commission. So they have to get the commission from the seller unless they change the loan guidelines.
So
Who's veterans, you know?
and what about FHA? These are the guys where they're putting the least amount down.
Yeah.
Because maybe they haven't been able to save a lot. Maybe they don't have, a high enough job where they're making it decent enough, or they just have expenses that are through the roof for living in California, whatever it is.
People with $1 million homes don't
still
have a ton in the bank.
So how do they come up with $30, $40, $60, $70,000 to pay, a high-end buyer's rep like myself, or someone who, knows the game and wants to save you money? What are their options? Is there any guidelines that say FHA cannot do this or cannot pay this or whatever it might be?
What's the difference when you're just financing more? You still can only put 3.5% down. I mean, it's
Makes sense.
Those people are not going to have, especially if you're using an FHA loan on a $800,000 home in around, California. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
If you're doing 2-3%. So what does that do? You have to look for homes that offer a buyer's commission. And what's that going to do to home prices?
Yeah. It's not going to be fun.
It's just the money comes from somewhere. So does it help the consumer or hurt the consumer is really the big question. Like, are home buyers being punished?
Yeah.
Or is this a good thing because they're not being steered towards homes with higher commissions?
I firmly believe, and I know this from experience, personal experience. I sold a $25 million home in Hollywood Hills. It was originally listed at, $29.5. We got it in the mid $25 million range, and I saved my client over $4 million with skillful negotiation. So, am I going to sit here and say everyone is going to save $4 million on their property? No, that's less than 1% of the population will buy in that price point. But imagine if I save someone $400,000 on a home or $40,000 on a home. If you don't use a buyer's rep or a buyer's agent, you are basically going to battle with yourself, because the individual that is representing the seller, their fiduciary duty is to the seller. So why would they be willing to help you negotiate?
Price as much as possible.
They just want as much money for their seller as physically possible. In California, you legally can represent both sides, called dual agency. In a lot of other states, you can't.
That was super popular years ago.
Exactly. And I've double agents the shit out of a lot of things, and I love it. Double payday, baby. But at the end of the day, you always get those awkward conversations where it's like, said individual who's the buyer is like, well, Max, I know you're representing the seller, so how do I know what you're telling my best interest? And then said seller says the same thing to me. And it's like, it takes a lot of experience to be able to bridge the gap to make them understand, I work for both sides. It's in our best interest to get the deal done and both agree on terms that work the best for each of us at the, the price point that's best for you and the selling price that's best for you. But, I think it's going to be a very difficult pill to swallow, because you can't just go to a seller and cut out the buyer. It'd be like, representing yourself in court. That's the best way that I could explain it.
Do you think that there's going to be more of that double representation?
There has to be, because it's just the way that I look at it. There's two guys that are going to get hit the most: these Zillow Premier agents and these Redfin Next guys, which 90% of their book of business is buyers. And their stock tank.
The other day.
I'm gonna short the hell out of it. Man. I'm buying it. I'm waiting. I'm monitoring it every single day. I'm about to buy it. That's a conversation for another thing. We're not getting into stocks, but those two conglomerates, those two big heavy hitters, if they don't find, a bailout plan or a unique way to go about this, they're going to be in trouble. And really the only way you can go about it is you can I hate saying this, lock your buyer into a buyer broker agreement, which if you don't know, that basically says you're going to work with me as your buyer's rep. You don't pay me anything, at least until now, and I represent you on the purchase of a home. Then they're going to have to get a secondary commission agreement saying you're going to pay me $5, $10, $15,000 flat fee, 3% flat, whatever it is, when we purchase or find the property you're going to purchase. Now, how many people out there are going to sign that? Because this is a new thing. No one's ever done that. I've had buyer brokers sign, but all it says it's a binding contract, but it's a non-binding contract from a cost perspective. You don't pay me anything. I get paid when we get a house, which the seller pays me.
Right. Well, the thing is, it opens up all these different avenues because
Pandora's box, baby.
It doesn't have to be this way. It can be creative.
I honestly, man, I think because I've been a Zillow Premier, agent where 90% of our business is buyers, and I am racking my brain on how they're going to survive unless there's a new business model that rolls out. There's some sort of, I don't want to say government bailout, but something to that degree. And any higher price, so, and you could speak this too, Brandon, any higher priced property as a listing agent, you're going to offer a commission to the buyer because it's going to help you bring agents to the table, right?
I would think so.
I mean,
depends where you're at, but I mean, that's the thing is now that it's not disclosed, what's stopping an agent from telling different commissions, like different buyer agents, say you're a listing agent, what's stopping that agent from saying, oh, it's 2.5%, 2%, it's 1.5%. Now that it's not posted, now that it's behind closed doors, if there is a commission that's being offered on the sale of the home from the seller, what's stopping them from, kind of playing by their own rules?
I mean,
just like, oh, with your offer, it's this much. Oh, with your offer, it's this much.
Well, it's gonna be a
or who type situations.
What's the word I'm looking for? Case by case.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, if you offer me 100,000 over asking, I'll give you an extra half a point.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And basically, all that is based off of is whatever the seller is paying that agent behind closed doors. So let's say I have a 6% listing agreement. Do I want to take 6% of the commission all to myself, or do I want to offer 2% to Joe Schmo if he gives me an offer 150 over asking? Maybe I will. And I'm sure during a listing presentation, I could pitch it to my owner that way and say, hey, I know you're paying me 6%, but I am willing to offer 2 of that or 2.5 of that to someone who gives 100K over asking. But anything at ask or, under, we're only giving 1%, or we're going to give them no percent and tell them to ask their buyer. So, I've always spoken in real estate, you have to make each side feel like they've won in order to get a deal to the finish line. Well, now really it only feels like one side is winning.
Yeah. The side that is more exposed now is definitely the buyers.
Yeah.
Which feel bad because there's going to be buyers that get taken advantage of, or they get into situations where they've now purchased a house that is, they miss problems or make a horrible purchase.
Tell you, man.
I remember when I was buying my house years ago, and the agent, my buyer's agent, saved me from purchasing a house in what I thought was an absolute beautiful area. Thought it was a steal. I'd walk through the house. It was at like the end of the street. It was just kind of wilderness behind it. There was nothing that was going to be built. And then he goes, we could walk out in the backyard, and I was sold on this house. I was like, this is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything perfect. I think it could have used a little updating, but interior stuff, no big deal. Oh, no. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it's a client calling me. Actually, it says scam likely. Trying to sell me something.
Oh, man. So he goes, look over that hill. Mm-hmm. And there's like this little building down there. He goes, that's a waste processing plant. It was like you couldn't really see it. It was kind of hidden behind some trees and stuff.
Yeah.
So like myself, I would have walked in the house and been like, this is perfect. I'm writing an offer today. He's like, that is going to stink. Yeah.
To high hell.
Random hours
Forever
of the
and
day,
ever.
especially in the summer. I still drive by that house all the time. I was like, man, I love that house, but whoo, glad I didn't buy, 100 yards from a waste processing plant.
It's going to be rough. And, to piggyback off what you said when we started the episode, the way they're going to pay for this $418 million deficit is they're going to raise our dues.
Yeah.
If not double them. They're going to lay off, half of the staff. They're going to cut corners wherever they can and make it very difficult. And I know, and this is a shout out to Mauricio Umansky, who started the agency. I actually almost did a deal with one of his agents up in Hollywood. Him and another partner started like an offset of the MLS, which is the multiple listing service, and are kind of trying to start their own association of realtors and basically saying, the way I would phrase it is for realtors, by realtors, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like,
I've heard a lot of chatter about
why should we be on the hook for this shit?
Different too on
Exactly. You don't have to be a member of the MLS to sell property.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, why should we be on the hook for this shit? Like, it's a class action lawsuit, and now they're going to make us pay for it. It's almost like taxes. They fuck something up. Government fucks it up. They make you pay for it by raising your taxes. And that's how I feel about it.
NAR is the government.
Yeah, NAR is the government. They fucked everything up. Now I got to pay for it. It's like, what? So it's interesting. I think I know to survive in the next 6 months to a year as an agent, as much as we all are listing agents, as much as we all like to sell over buy, we still have clients that buy, and we still make a decent amount of money representing them.
Yeah.
Right? So as an agent, I'm thrilled at this outcome because now it's just going to make me shine that much better than all, the slopdicks out there that aren't good agents.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just going to bulldoze them over, take their business overnight, and just show how much better of an agent I am than you, and you. And here's 10 reasons why.
Yeah, exactly.
So now you're actually going to have to work. And so, or make a podcast, I don't know, figure it out.
Yeah, no, but it's going to make you and your skills and your intuition and the way you work with clients stand out over the agents that are just kind of in it because they thought real estate was easy or whatever. They were on reality TV before. And
it almost makes you want to just call all your clients that are thinking of buying and saying, like, you have 6 months to buy a house before you have to pay me out of pocket to basically do something for free that would be you'd be doing now.
Yeah.
I mean, as hard and as brash as that sounds coming from me, I'm a very brash person. That's exactly what this lawsuit says. Buy your shit now or be prepared to pay a large fee for a free service. That's what it is. I don't know how else to explain it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know what's going to happen, Brandon. I'm going to have people who are going to call me in 6 months, be like, Max, I'm ready to buy. Rates have dropped, just like you told me they were going to drop. And now I'm ready to buy a house. I'm going to say, well, it's going to cost you $40,000. And they're going to look at me and be like, you're my friend. I'm going to be like, yeah, but I don't work for free.
Yeah, but this is $1.5 million home.
I don't work for free. And they're going to be like, what do you mean? And be like, didn't you watch season 12 of Ink Deals? Well, I kind of thought you were a joke with your tattoos. Oh, really? Well, now you owe me $40,000 if you want the house.
Yeah.
Because I'm a professional, and that's how we do this. And so it's gonna be wild, man. And I really hope from a lender perspective that they fix something. So I mean, Brandon, can't they like do this through concessions, through closing? Can't they like make a credit?
Does it come from this? That just comes back from the seller.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can start negotiating with the seller now on the buyer's commission. So now it's a negotiable item.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how do you mean negotiable? Like,
I'll pay half your buyer's fee. I'll pay.
So the seller pays that, and then it goes to me.
I don't know.
Because if you give a credit,
that's the thing, is it just makes it creative. Like, now that it's under the table, essentially, it's gonna be a little wild west for a little bit until they develop some sort of, at least something regular. Because before it was just regular. It was just the norm. Sellers paid both agent commissions.
Yeah.
Now it's buyer agent not posted. Kind of gives the seller freedom to pay it or not. And then, it just puts a whole lot of things in motion. Like I said, the VA doesn't even allow veterans to pay for those fees. So whether they wanted to or not, they couldn't pay a buyer fee with a VA loan.
So what do you think? How does it make? How how do I phrase this? How does it make you feel? Like, I'm a homeowner, you're a homeowner. If I had to deal with this now, I'd be like, hell no. I'll go study and get my real estate license and buy the house myself in 6 months. Yeah, the market will be different, but for me,
what's the alternative? It's either that or you
get your license and learn.
You pay for the professionalism and the insight and wisdom
Yeah.
of a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
So it really makes the buyer's agents that are good more valuable.
No,
and
I
it
agree.
will wipe out 75% of buyer's agents.
This is going to get exciting.
As
As if our industry isn't already Wild West. Now we're going like to back to the Stone Age.
yeah, like you
this is gonna
said,
be wild.
dues are going to go up, which is going to already, there's the amount
People
of...
are just going to drop out because of that.
Yeah, they are. Just because they do a deal a year, you know,
Like, what the
something
hell
that-
is this?
They're just
Pointless.
holding their license for no reason. And so they're not going to want to pay the dues.
Yeah.
I mean, and people are going to be much more in tune, hopefully,
Yeah.
with what to look for with a buyer's agent.
Yeah. Let's check Zillow's stock right now. Let's just check.
All right.
You said 10%. I think it's down to 13%. What do you
I
think?
don't know. I remember watching it yesterday. It tanked like 7% in a
Zillow
couple hours.
stock. Oh, let's see
Their
this.
whole model revolves around
Buyer
buyer's agents, sometimes inexperienced,
experience.
sometimes new, or a lot of the times
Oof.
new.
So
Their whole revenue comes from connecting buyers with agents.
So Zillow Group Inc. Class C. There's Class C and Class A. Class C is up 1.16% from yesterday, and yesterday it was down 10%.
Yeah.
So it's at 48.87.
a major
Redfin is down 5.5%.
today and yesterday. How much?
Jesus, this is yesterday. Oh, I think it dropped. Let me check this. $5.68. Sorry, $5.66 was the all-time low yesterday. Now it's up to $5.68, but it's dropped, like I said, 5.5%. So, what do you think is gonna happen with these big guys, Brandon?
The model's gonna have to change, right?
To change. I think they'll still. I think Zillow might still go back to selling leads, buyer leads.
Oh, 100%.
Let's say I bought them, I would just have to get every buyer lead to sign the buyer broker agreement,
Yeah.
every single one, and then also say, I would literally only want leads that were 2 to 5 million because those are the only ones that probably can afford to pay me what I'm worth.
But did those Zillow leads just become a whole lot less valuable? Because now,
That's a good question.
who knows, half or more, you have to expect them to come out of pocket,
Correct.
possibly, for a buyer's commission.
So a $100 lead might now be
If you're
$5.
closing 1 in 20, what does that do?
Oh, Brandon.
I'm just saying, I'm sure I could imagine Zillow right now, they're having meetings and like, what the fuck?
It's interesting. And I mean, we're not going to continue to go down the rabbit hole about all this. To wrap it up, if you're out there and you're an active real estate agent, listing agent, buyer's agent, you're doing any kind of business, you need to really start making yourself shine, build your brand, and make yourself different from everyone else. Different. I don't care what you do. Get sleeves, get a cup that has your face on it with a tagline that says, and worst case, your freaking cat dies. Do something. Do anything. I don't care what it is. Because
you have to be fun.
Yeah, we got to understand real estate.
Better.
You got to understand real estate. You got to understand contractual agreements. You got to understand high price points. I think a lot of agents really need to push into these higher price points because all this $600,000 and $700,000 garbage, which doesn't get you anything in South Orange County anyways, maybe a one bed, you're going to be screwed because these guys can't afford to pay you anything. So either, get out of that realm and push to the higher realms or, do shit for free or, set a small, like $2,000 across the board commission for anything $1 million and under, because that's all these people are going to be able to pay you.
Yeah, that's insane.
Unless they're millionaires buying a $700,000 condo, which most people don't do unless they're investors. How are you going to get paid, man? It's going to be wild.
Yeah, it's gonna be wild.
July.
And that's not even that far away. July.
Mid-July, this is going to go down.
This year. It's not something like, oh, this is down the road. Like this is coming months away.
418 million over 4 years, and NAR's annual revenue is just over 100 after expenses. You guys can do the math. Not looking good.
Not looking good.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in.
Wrap this one up.
Brandon, do you have anything to say to these people crying now that are listening to us going, what the flip am I going to do?
I feel for him. I feel for if they are in positions where they need to bring more money to the table in this environment. I mean, where we are, I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Sucks. I think hopefully there's a resolution where there's a little bit more structure on how buyers' commissions are going to be paid. I think there's good and bad that comes from it for sure. But I think it was supposed to help home buyers. And I'm not sure if that's going to be the case.
Yeah. Differentiate yourself, people. You see what we're doing. Do something.
Do good.
Do good. Great. Love you. Goodbye.
See ya.